May 27, 1941. The Bismarck vanishes beneath nearly 5,000 meters of Atlantic darkness, its fate sealed by an armored barrier no probe ever breached. For 83 years, legends whispered of what lay behind that wall. Now, a state-of-the-art drone has broken through, and what it found defies wartime logic. Unexplained heat, alien compounds, and a distress signal echoing from a chamber unopened since World War II. The answers could rewrite history and leave us questioning what the Bismarck was really protecting. At first light on May 27, 1941, the Atlantic was already scarred by battle. Hours earlier, the German battleship Bismarck had taken its final blows, torpedoes from British destroyers, shells from the battleships. Rodney and King George V. The crew, over 2,000 strong, struggled below decks as compartments flooded and fires raged. By 10:40 a.m., the order was given to abandon ship. Amid chaos and rising water, men leapt from the listing hull into oil-slicked waves. Some clung to rafts, others vanished beneath the cold surface. Of the 2,221 men who sailed aboard, only 114 survived the sinking. Most were lost within minutes, swept away by current or trapped inside as the ship plunged. The Bismarck slipped beneath the surface, stern first, disappearing into nearly 4,800 meters of darkness. The wreck came to rest upright on the ocean floor, its armored hull battered and torn, its secrets sealed by pressure and time. For decades, the site remained untouched, a war grave marked by silence and immense loss. No rescue was possible at such depth, and the world above moved on, leaving the Bismarck and her crew entombed in the cold, crushing black of the Atlantic. The scale of the tragedy, the speed of the descent, and the remoteness of the graveyard have haunted naval history ever since. 4 decades after Bismarck vanished beneath the Atlantic, the first real glimpse of her resting place came in 1989. Robert Ballard's team, working from the research vessel Atlantis II, deployed Argo, a remotely operated camera sled, into the depths. The descent took hours, cables stretching nearly 5 kilometers to the seabed. Argo's low-resolution cameras and sonar traced the outline of the wreck, confirming the battleship's upright position and the catastrophic damage to her hull. The armored belt, once thought impenetrable, lay split and twisted. Debris fields stretched for hundreds of meters, but Argo could only skim the surface, its lights revealing battered steel and scattered remnants of war. No way existed then to peer behind the thick armor or into collapsed compartments. In 2002, James Cameron led a new expedition with Russian MIR submersibles. Their technology brought sharper images and the ability to maneuver close to the wreck. External surveys mapped the superstructure and documented the collapse of the forward hull. Cameron's team filmed the bridge, gun turrets, and twisted plating, but the interior remained out of reach. Flooded passageways and silt-filled chambers blocked entry. The MIR submersibles, though advanced, could not penetrate sealed spaces or detect subtle changes hidden behind armor. Both expeditions revealed the scale of destruction and the preservation of the site, but neither found evidence of hidden compartments or unexplained features. The limits of 20th century technology left much of Bismarck's interior a mystery, fueling speculation about what might still lie sealed within her armored walls. Captain Eric Moeller stood at the center of the operations tent, eyes fixed on the digital readouts scrolling across the monitors. For months, his team had prepared for this moment, a direct attempt to breach the Bismarck's armored barrier, a wall of steel more than 30 centimeters thick that had defied explorers for over 8 decades. No probe, no submersible, no camera had ever crossed that threshold. The compartment behind it had remained sealed since the ship went down in 1941, untouched by salvage crews, unmapped even by the most advanced dives of the last century. Moeller's plan hinged on a new breed of underwater technology. The Prometheus X drone, developed for extreme depths, was built to handle the crushing pressures of the Atlantic abyss. Its composite hull and advanced thrusters allowed it to hover with precision, while its articulated arm could manipulate small tools and sensors in total darkness. The mission brief was simple but daunting. Approach the armor belt, locate the suspected entry point, and deploy microsonar to search for voids or seams. If a way in could be found, Prometheus X would attempt to penetrate the barrier, sending back live data and video from a place no human or machine had ever reached. For Mo Eller, the stakes extended far beyond technical achievement. The sealed chamber represented the last untouched fragment of a lost era, a puzzle locked in steel and silence. If Prometheus X succeeded, the team would have a chance to answer questions left hanging since the day Bismarck vanished beneath the waves. Every sensor reading, every second of footage, carried the weight of history. The order was given. Prometheus X began its slow descent, lights cutting through the black water, moving toward the armored wall that had kept its secrets for generations. Prometheus X was built for one purpose: to survive and operate in the most hostile environment on Earth. Its hull, a seamless composite of titanium and carbon fiber, measures just over 4 meters in length and is rated to withstand pressures exceeding 500 atmospheres, enough to resist the crushing weight at nearly 5,000 meters below the surface. 6 vectored thrusters, each independently controlled, allow the drone to move with precision in any direction, holding position against unpredictable currents or shifting debris. At the heart of Prometheus X's navigation is a 12 kHz synthetic aperture sonar array. This system sweeps the wreck with high-frequency pulses, building detailed three-dimensional maps even in total darkness. The sonar's resolution can distinguish a gap in armor less than 1 centimeter wide, critical for locating seams or hidden entry points in Bismarck's formidable belt. Supplementing the sonar, a microthermistor array runs along the drone's leading edge. Each sensor is calibrated to detect changes in water temperature down to 1/100th of a degree Celsius, sensitive enough to pick up the faintest anomaly, even through layers of steel. For visual documentation, Prometheus X carries a pair of 4K HDR video cameras, each equipped with adaptive lighting to cut through the silt and darkness. The cameras are mounted on stabilized gimbals, ensuring clear footage regardless of movement or turbulence. Data from all sensor streams live through a fiber optic tether, allowing the topside crew to monitor every reading in real time. Sampling and analysis are handled by the drone's articulated arm, which is fitted with a laser-induced breakdown spectroscopy module. This tool can vaporize a pinhead-sized sample from a target surface, then analyze the resulting plasma for elemental composition. The module makes it possible to identify unknown materials, metals, polymers, or residues, without needing to return them to the surface. The arm's three-jointed design allows for delicate maneuvers, whether scraping corrosion from a seam or extracting a fragment from a narrow crevice. Dr. Marco Levi, the mission's principal science officer, designed the drone's sensor suite to address the unique challenges of the Bismarck site. The team anticipated silt clouds, hull collapse, and biofouling, so Prometheus X is equipped with self-cleaning lens covers and anti-fouling coatings. Every system is shielded against electromagnetic interference, a precaution drawn from decades of wreck exploration, where stray currents and corroded wiring can scramble sensitive electronics. Redundancy is built into every layer. Dual power modules, each isolated in armored casings, ensure that a single failure will not end the mission. The drone's onboard computer runs parallel processing routines for navigation and data integrity, cross-checking inputs to prevent false readings. In the event of a system malfunction, Prometheus X can initiate a controlled descent, returning to the surface with its data cache intact. The result is a machine ready for the unknown, a platform capable of mapping, measuring, and sampling in places no human diver could ever go. As the drone approached the Bismarck's armored wall, every sensor was active, every system tested. The team watched from the deck, trusting that the technology would reveal what decades of exploration had left hidden. The Prometheus X hovered in silence, its thrusters holding steady against the gentle drift of the abyss. On the topside monitors, a stream of numbers flickered, a live feed from the drone's microthermistor array. Then, in the middle of a routine scan, a single line turned yellow. The temperature reading jumped by 0.3 of a degree Celsius, holding at 2.8 degrees Celsius. For the Bismarck's resting depth, where the surrounding water rarely strays from 2.5 degrees Celsius, this spike was not just odd, it was impossible to ignore. The anomaly registered precisely 1.2 meters behind the armored wall. The thermal map, rendered in false color, showed a tight oval of warmth, no more than a meter across, surrounded by the steady cold of the Atlantic. Muller's voice broke the tension in the control tent. his words clipped and quiet. Hold position. Confirm anomaly. The sensor suite cycled through diagnostics. The readings held firm. No evidence of electrical interference, no sign of a short in the thermistor chain. The team watched as the drone's navigation lasers traced the inner surface of the hull, mapping the exact coordinates of the heat source. The data suggested a pocket of water, or perhaps air, separated from the ocean by layers of steel. At this depth, with the ship entombed for more than 80 years, any isolated compartment should have long since reached thermal equilibrium with the sea. Yet the numbers were clear, a steady, measurable pulse of warmth, holding just above ambient. The control room's atmosphere shifted. Engineers leaned in, scanning for any sign of a leak or a chemical reaction that might explain the anomaly. The drone's cameras panned across the armored barrier, searching for cracks, corrosion, or evidence of biological growth. Nothing in the footage hinted at a breach. The plating was intact, the seams sealed tight. The only clue was the data streaming in real time, a persistent, localized signature, refusing to fade. Mahler ordered a second pass. Prometheus X retraced its path, sensors recalibrated, every system cross-checked for error. Again, the anomaly appeared. Same location, same intensity. For 3 minutes, the team watched the thermal graph, the spike unwavering. The numbers scrolled by, each one a silent challenge to established physics. At this depth, with the pressure of nearly 5,000 meters of water pressing in, nothing should be able to hold warmth for so long. No battery, no chemical cell, no living organism could explain such a reading after 8 decades in the dark. The implications pressed in on the team. A sealed compartment, still holding heat, suggested an active process, chemical, electrical, or something entirely unexpected. The question was no longer whether the anomaly was real, but what could be generating it. Mahler's voice, low and steady, cut through the hum of equipment. Prepare for sampling. We need to know what's behind that wall. Under the sterile light of the Geomar laboratory, the sample from the Bismarck's armored seam sat sealed in a glass vial. Dr. Anja Fischer, a materials chemist with a background in deep-sea polymers, prepared the fragment for analysis. The substance, a transparent oily film scraped from the steel plating, had resisted initial classification. Dr. Fischer began with a microscopic examination, noting the absence of organic growth or typical marine corrosion products. Instead, the film's structure resembled a cross-linked polymer, its strands tangled and dense, unlike any known shipboard sealant from the 1930s. Next came the mass spectrometry scan. The instrument's results blinked onto the screen. A spike at 12% silicon lithium, far above natural background levels. No trace of biological markers, no protein signatures, and none of the sulfur compounds usually found in deep-sea residues. The gel's elemental profile defied expectations. In the 1940s, German naval engineers worked with phenolic resins and early plastics, but never with lithium-infused silicone. Dow Corning's first silicone patents appeared in the United States only in 1943, years after Bismarck sailed. Lithium compounds, especially in polymer blends, were virtually unknown outside experimental batteries decades later. Dr. Fischer ran a vacuum heating test, simulating the pressure drop that might occur if the chamber were breached. As the gel warmed under reduced pressure, it released a steady 5-watt pulse of thermal energy, measured by precise calorimetry. The reaction was smooth, with no visible breakdown or bubbling, evidence of a decay-stabilized process, not a simple chemical burn. The gel's clarity remained, its viscosity unchanged, even as the temperature rose. This behavior matched no cataloged marine contaminant or protective coating from the era. In technical notes, Dr. Fischer described the substance as a non-organic, thermally reactive polymer, capable of storing and releasing small amounts of energy on demand. Spectral analysis under ultraviolet light revealed another anomaly: faint bands in the near-infrared, consistent with modern vibration-damping gels used in sensitive electronics. Yet the sample's chemical backbone was older, lacking the stabilizers found in contemporary materials. The only plausible explanation was a hybrid, an engineered substance, designed to insulate or buffer delicate systems from shock and pressure, but created with methods unavailable to wartime engineers. Dr. Fisher compared the results to archival samples of 1930s naval insulation, adhesives, and sealants. None showed the same elemental ratios, thermal response, or polymer structure. The closest analogs were post-war lithium silicone gels developed for aerospace applications in the late 20th century, decades after Bismarck's construction. The data ruled out accidental contamination from modern submersibles. The sample had been sealed behind armor since 1941, untouched by salvage or research teams. The implications were clear in the lab notes. The gel was not a product of the ship's original construction, nor of the known technology of its time. Its presence behind a sealed armored wall, coupled with its energy-releasing properties, pointed to an unknown purpose, possibly to protect sensitive electronics, or to stabilize a system designed to remain active long after the ship's demise. Dr. Fisher's findings left the research team with more questions than answers. The gel's composition and behavior suggested a leap in materials science, out of place for its era, and hinted at the existence of advanced technology hidden within Bismarck's most inaccessible chamber. A low, rhythmic pulse echoed through the Prometheus X's acoustic sensors, barely perceptible above the ocean's natural static. The signal came from inside the Bismarck's sealed compartment, not from the drone itself. On the monitors, the spectrogram displayed a repeating sequence: 3 short bursts, 3 long, 3 short. SOS in Morse code, unmistakable in its pattern, each loop separated by precisely 62 seconds. The audio team ran checks for interference or feedback from the drone's own systems, but the source held steady, triangulated to a point just under a meter inside the armored wall. Archivist Thomas Reed, called in for his expertise in naval communication protocols, studied the live data and the drone's logs. Reed traced the pattern's timing and amplitude, comparing it to known acoustic artifacts and natural marine signals. The regularity ruled out random noise or mechanical resonance. Reed's attention fixed on the interval, 62 seconds, repeated with machine precision. He recalled a declassified manual from early war-era German Navy archives, which described a fallback distress relay. The system, designed for catastrophic loss of command, could trigger Morse pulses using internal batteries, even if the main power grid failed. According to the manual, activation required 3 conditions: loss of command input, pressure breach, and an external sonar contact. Prometheus X's approach, with its high-frequency sonar mapping, would have satisfied the final trigger. Reed's analysis suggested the relay, if still intact, had survived in a dormant state, waiting for a prompt. The acoustic sensors confirmed the signal's point of origin: a pocket of space, shielded behind the 320mm belt, invisible to all previous expeditions. The relay's design placed its emitter less than a meter from the armored seam, its purpose to broadcast outward in the event of disaster. As the signal repeated for a 4th cycle, Reed noted the decaying amplitude, a slow drop, consistent with a battery drawing down after decades in cold storage. The pulse shape, captured on the spectrogram, matched the relay's original blueprint: a sharp attack, a flattened sustain, then a rapid decay. The system's designers had intended it to cut through the noise of battle or the roar of flooding compartments, using a frequency band less likely to be masked by ocean currents or machinery. The fact that any energy remained after 83 years defied expectation. Reed's logbook recorded the event: SOS acoustic loop, 0.9 meters inside armored wall, 62-second cycle. Source: compartment relay, not drone. In the control tent, the team listened as the pulses faded into the background, the final transmission weaker but still distinct. The relay's endurance suggested a system engineered for extreme isolation, insulated by the same unknown gel found on the exterior seams. The signal's persistence, its unwavering cycle, pointed to an intentional mechanism, a last resort message, repeating into the deep without hope of human reply. Reed's analysis set the stage for a deeper investigation, raising the question of who or what had been meant to hear the call. A battered folder, its edges browned with age, surfaced in a Berlin archive in early 2023. Inside, a faded schematic bore the title, Nebelhorn 7. The drawing depicted a sealed, windowless chamber tucked beneath the armored Zentroli command center of the Bismarck, the battleship. Technical notes lined the margins, references to impulse storage, null well, and a cryptic instruction: Nur Active Untercommand 9. No record of such a compartment appeared in wartime blueprints or post-war intelligence files. The document's provenance traced back to the estate of a deceased Siemens Schuckert engineer, a civilian contractor who had worked on naval electronics in the late 1930s. Historian Clara Hennisch, known for her forensic audits of naval ledgers, took a closer look. She cross-referenced the Nebelhorn schematic against Bismarck's official manifests, payroll slips, and supply ledgers. The numbers told a story of their own. While the Kriegsmarine's final manifest listed 2,221 men aboard at the time of sinking, Hennisch's review of the shipyard's last logistics ledger revealed a gap: 32 names, all attached to civilian firms. Siemens, Schuckert, Lorenz, and Telefunken. These companies specialized in radar, encrypted communications, and experimental control systems. Each name appeared on work orders and supply shipments, but none on the final casualty lists or survivor rolls. There were no records of families notified, no post-war pension claims, no mention in the Bismarck's commemorative rosters. Hennisch's findings pointed to a deliberate omission. The 32 missing individuals were not ordinary crewmen. Internal memos, buried in the contractor's archives, referenced a sealed detachment assigned to B compartment under blackout conditions. Payrolls ended abruptly in May 1941. The only surviving correspondence, a terse note from a Telefunken supervisor, simply stated, "All personnel transferred to site. Security protocol enforced." The schematic's technical language raised further questions. Terms like null well and channel zero wave had no analog in standard naval engineering of the era. The compartment was marked as impulse storage, its boundaries traced in thick red pencil. An annotation beside the armored wall read, "Isolate on command. Activate only under 9." These details suggested an experimental installation, one designed to operate independently of the rest of the ship. The absence of ventilation symbols or escape hatches implied the chamber was meant to remain sealed under all conditions. Hennisch compiled her evidence, schematic, payroll gap, and contractor memos into a report for the German Maritime Archive. Her conclusion: the Bismarck had carried a hidden compartment, staffed by a civilian detachment, their presence erased from official records. Whether they were engineers, technicians, or something else altogether, their fate was bound to the silent chamber beneath the armored belt. The discovery added a human dimension to the technical mystery: a vanished group, a concealed project, and a blueprint that had outlasted both war and memory. A burst of static, sharp and unnatural, cut through the drone audio feed on the sixth dive. The signal lasted 2.6 seconds, just long enough to register as a human voice, its cadence warped by pressure and time. Spectrogram analysis captured the phrase, "Nicht abbrechen signal active." The translation is blunt: "Do not terminate, signal active." There was no surviving transmitter in the Bismarck's radio room. Every piece of broadcasting hardware had been obliterated in the final barrage. Above-deck antennas, twisted and torn, lay scattered across the debris field. Yet the waveform matched a pattern once reserved for the highest levels of naval command. Type B encrypted distress calls, a band dormant since the end of the war. Archivist Thomas Reed, called in from the British National Archives, traced the anomaly across decades of classified intercepts. A recently declassified file, ADM-INT 7418B, contained a log from a Royal Navy listening post in Newfoundland. The entry, dated May 27, 1941, described a scrambled long-wave transmission, weak, garbled, but unmistakably German. The decoded line read, "Execute Signal 9, vessel integrity compromised, lock initiated." The phrase Signal 9 does not appear in any known Kriegsmarine doctrine or Enigma decrypt. The file's 9th page, stamped eyes only and marked for special operations, included a handwritten note from Commander W.H. Adderson. He wrote of an unknown system aboard Bismarck, an automatic lockdown activated by catastrophic damage. Adderson recommended a post-war investigation, but the trail went cold. Later memos blacked out every reference to Signal 9 and the matter was dismissed as irrelevant. No follow-up inquiry ever took place. The implications are chilling. The voice burst and the British intercept, separated by more than 80 years, point to a system designed to seal the Zentroli compartment from within. The precision of the Type B band, the timing of the intercepted message, and the deliberate suppression of records suggest a technology intended to operate beyond human oversight. Reed's narration, steady but uneasy, lingers on the ethical dilemma. Was the Bismarck's final secret buried by accident or by design? The question hangs in the air, unanswered, as the investigation turns from data to the shadowy decisions made in the aftermath of war. Hypothesis. The sealed chamber behind the Bismarck's armored wall has inspired a wave of speculation among engineers and naval historians. Some propose that the anomaly could be the signature of a prototype energy buffer, an experimental device designed to store and release electrical energy over extended periods. In the late 1930s, German research into high-capacity batteries and vibration-damping materials was years ahead of its time, but the idea of a decay-stabilized energy gel, as detected in the residue, suggests a leap even beyond those ambitions. Dr. Marco Levi, drawing on the chemical analysis, considers the possibility that the gel served as a primitive energy reservoir, slowly releasing stored heat as it decayed. He notes that the measured thermal output, though faint, aligns with the expected discharge curve of a long-expired electrochemical cell. At 4,800 meters, any conventional battery would have failed within weeks, yet the persistent warmth hints at a system engineered to last far longer, perhaps decades. A second theory centers on magnetic core memory, a technology that would not reach full maturity until the 1950s. The Nebelhorn-Sieben schematic, with its references to impulse storage and channel zero wave, echoes the language of early digital memory research. Clara Hennisch points out that the compartment's isolation, coupled with the presence of shock mounts and vibration insulation, could indicate an attempt to shield sensitive components from the violence of battle and the crushing pressure of the deep. If the Bismarck's designers were experimenting with magnetic storage, the sealed chamber might have been built to protect a prototype, an archive for encrypted data, or an automated relay capable of broadcasting distress signals long after the ship's demise. Neither hypothesis fits comfortably within the known boundaries of wartime technology. The materials recovered from the seam do not match any catalogued German naval equipment, and the compartment's existence remains unverified outside a single schematic and scattered payroll records. Yet the persistence of the heat signature, the structure of the polymer residue, and the regularity of the acoustic pulses all point to a system that was designed to endure. Whether as an energy buffer, a core memory vault, or something else entirely, the chamber behind the armored wall stands as a challenge to conventional history. The facts are few, but the questions they raise continue to unsettle even the most skeptical investigators. For now, the true purpose of the sealed compartment remains just out of reach, suspended between documented science and the unresolved mysteries of the deep. Even now, the Bismarck's wreck inspires new myths, despite no credible evidence of secret chambers or modern signals. As deep-sea mysteries blur with digital fiction, separating fact from fantasy demands sharper skepticism. In a world awash with viral legends, the real challenge isn't what technology uncovers underwater, it's what we choose to believe above the surface. What story will you carry forward? Share your thoughts below.